All right, let's get 4 things straight right now. Number 1, today we're reviewing my brand new Sigma f1.4 art lens. It's the perfect lens. Number 2, I am sorry about the thumbnail. I've been trying to up my thumbnail game and I may have gone too far. Number 3, this channel is about creativity, not consumerism. So do you want to be a photographer or just a person who buys camera gear? You can be both for sure, but ask yourself, which do you want to be? Or are you afraid to find out? Number 4, hello and welcome back. We actually reached 100 subs on this channel, which is pretty wild. I actually never thought I'd get 100 of anything on YouTube. So I thank you for that. And with that being said, my list of ideas for this YouTube channel is already getting a little thin, so comment below what different kinds of topics you would like me to cover in the future. I'd love to hear what you guys want. I'm going to be reviewing this lens for both video and photo work, but let's do video first because it's just way more fun. Let's check out some test footage. All of the test footage for this video is from recent wedding film shoots, so I apologize if wedding videos aren't your thing. This is just the closest footage I had in my hard drives.
Every moment has led us to this day. Every journey that brought us to this place. We're filled with wonder that words couldn't.
Well, what'd you think? The majority of that footage was shot with my Sigma 50mm paired with a Canon EOS R6 in 4K 60. So far, so good. I think the image is sharp and the lens is light enough to be used on my gimbal and handheld just fine. I love the way it handles skin tones and how complementary it is for facial features. This lens could even make you look okay. And it's just hard to beat the look of a prime lens, especially in any kind of dynamic video work. I do have a Sigma 24-70 2.8mm already. So technically I have the 50mm focal length covered. So yeah, I could live without this lens and get my work done fine. But fine is, it's only fucking fine. And there's really no debate among filmmakers. A prime lens is just gonna almost always look better than a zoom lens, trust me. I'm also really enjoying the colors that this lens produces, and the bokeh really pops. The depth of field rendering is obviously a big reason for purchasing this lens. Your clients are gonna really love it too. The out of focus elements just look really good on this lens. Okay, let's talk about specs for a second. For most of my work, again, I have this lens paired with a Canon EOS R6, but also a Blackmagic pocket camera cinema, Jesus, which means my lens is an EF mount, and I have a Canon RF to EF adapter. You're more than welcome to buy Canon's RF 50mm 1.2 for $2,300. Jesus. Yeah, just buy the adapter. I think mine was $99. This lens has a 77mm thread with autofocus that almost never misses, but no built-in image stabilization. It also came with the lens hood and currently retails for $829. I'll make sure to put a non-affiliate link below to the lens if you're interested in checking it out. But remember gang, it's always smart to rent gear before you buy it. I'm featuring this lens in this video because it's perfect or whatever, but I don't care if you buy it. For my work, the lens is probably perfect, but there's a lot of different kinds of production work out there. And if there's 500 different companies, there could be 500 different perfect lenses for each one of them. And as far as filmmaking, I found that a 50mm lens works for almost any kind of coverage you need. I mean, you could easily shoot a whole project on this one lens. It's a lens, but it's also kind of turning into a philosophy for me anyways on set. I've had days on set where I'm working on composing my shot, still not sure of the exact perfect focal length yet, then recomposing, then I'm moving damn near every piece of furniture, then every light, then I'm like picking up people and I'm moving them, then I'm like fucking with the curtains for no reason. I don't know why. Maybe they looked at me wrong. And then the client's looking at me like, oh, hey guy, we close at 5. Then I have a stroke and die. When what I should have done is just put the 50mm on and roll camera because it always looks good. Okay, I guess we gotta talk about the lens for photography now. So here's some sample images that I got from a little trip to Eureka Springs, Arkansas. These images all came out sharp where I needed them to be and produced great colors too. Again, the bokeh is just bussin'. The lens basically performed exactly how I thought it would be, which is good. As a focal length for photography, the 50mm is a little boring, I guess. Maybe it's just too standard. I mean, our eyes have seen that focal length in TV and movies for decades. I think the images shot with a Sigma 50mm still look great. I mean, obviously you would benefit from trying to find a little more interesting subject matter. I don't have any issues with the lens itself. It's just the 50mm focal length makes it, I guess, hard to force perspective in your images. No, I'll get over it. Unless your goal is art through standardization, like this photo series that I'm unironically working on called Interesting Buildings of Little Importance. In these situations, I think a more traditional 50mm focal length actually works best because I want simple compositions here. It's not the sexiest thing, but it's just a good example of using the lens you have to fit the subject matter best. Again, I'm loving the way this Sigma 50mm lens is working for me, but just not a lot of fresh ground to cover here, so let's move on to the fun part. Next up, let's go have ourselves a little history lesson. Come on, it'll be fun. Come on. So to be clear, this lens is new to me, but it's not new to the market, not even close. The Sigma 50mm version has been around for a while, since like 2014. And look, I'm only gonna tell you this one time. It's usually always a bad idea to buy any new camera gear when it first comes out, especially if your favorite YouTuber is advertising it. All the camera gear you really need to make good work is already on the market, and it probably has been for years. This lens is $829-ish new, which is a lot of money. I would still put it in the category of professional consumer gear or prosumer gear if you're nasty. It's a great 50mm prime lens, but obviously not in the same way like a Cooke anamorphic 50mm lens is. Like, you can buy this thing from Nebraska Furniture Mart. And that's okay, because as content creators, we have a history with this lens, don't we? So let's do a few minutes on camera history as it relates to the Sigma f1.4 art lens. This information is basically straight from the B&H website, home of the most inescapable YouTube ads ever.
Yes, definitely.
Look out, they are coming for you. Just not on Saturdays.
What's the big deal?
According to my research, the 50mm prime was actually the original kit lens of the photography world. What's a camera's kit lens?
Oh, you wouldn't be interested in that.
And you're not. But to put it simply, it's a budget lens that comes with a budget camera. It's included in the original purchase, and it's of inherently inferior quality, but that's okay because you're not planning to take bad photos. At the time, that made sense. The 50mm was inexpensive to produce, it was light, it was cheap. That focal length essentially always is appealing to the human eye. We thought the good times would never end, but the sun was quickly setting on the 50mm lens faction as the zoom lenses arrived and kicked down the door of camera mediocrity. With those zoom lenses, all of a sudden, using those budget cameras, we could shoot at much wider focal lengths than before. The image quality wasn't that great with those zoom lenses, but the trade-off was just mass access to a wider focal length that is just a little bit more interesting to look at than that boring old 50mm lens. These lenses were usually a 16 to 55 f5 or higher kind of thing, and it's essentially what we think of as kit lenses today. And boom, the battle lines were drawn and skate videos were born. In its time, the 50mm lens was king, but every monarch dies eventually. But back to the story. Blood has been spilled on photography soil. What changed? Well, the cameras were actually changing faster than the lenses. Camera sensors got huge in the mid-2000s thanks to the DSLR revolution, which was unfortunately bloodless. And with that increase in sensor quality, camera companies brought even better lenses to market because now, with that increased sensor size, you could just shoot far, far better images. Artists could make more money with this increase in image quality, and camera companies could make more money off the artists doing so. It was rapid fire innovation in a free market and people were loving it. But hark, did you hear that? Here come the prime lenses to take back what is rightfully theirs. Now, these lenses are shooting at ridiculously low apertures, 2.8 or lower. This new bokeh is like a drug. Sensor size and lens development, it was the perfect marriage. And that recent increase only happens when you pair like a 2012 Canon Mark III with a prime lens. It just didn't work with zoom lenses yet. The technology wasn't there. People that were making zoom lenses just had to make too many compromises to make the things zoom. But it's the prime lenses turn to reign, so okay, who's first here? It looks like it's gonna be the Zeiss Otis f1.4. Otis? The lens was huge and it was heavy and it had no autofocus, but the thing shot world-class images when you paired it with a nice camera. The lens looks absolutely unwieldy, but I'm sure it's a situation where you put the lens on your camera, take a photo with it, and you look at that photo on the back of the camera and you think, okay, maybe it ain't so heavy. Oh wait. What's wrong with this picture? It was like $3,000. No good. What else we got? Canon, Nikon, Sigma? Is that you? And just like now, even back then, the Canon and Nikon equivalent lenses were just too expensive. So, guess what, Hitler's nut? That means there's a new market share for lower budget lenses. Sigma rolls in with their affordable art line of lenses, and they shot incredible images, had autofocus, and they were ready to rub some dirt in your eye. Times were a-changin', and companies started to take their 50mm prime lens and all their other prime lenses far more seriously. No longer would they be the kit lens of the camera world. They wanted respect, and camera companies have been essentially bulking up their prosumer line of prime lenses ever since. And now you know everything. And this lens is the smoking gun. Okay, let's wrap up and talk about who would benefit from buying this perfect 50mm lens. I think all lower to mid-level production companies should consider buying the Sigma 50mm f1.4 art lens. Can't get the budget to rent an expensive lens package for your project? No sweat. You can put this lens in front of just about any mirrorless or cinema camera, and you're gonna get a great prime lensy image. Again, your clients are gonna love the depth of field that you can achieve with this thing. Take it from me, I do usually use zoom lenses for a lot of my work, but this 50mm really provides a noticeable difference. And like I said before, this lens is also wide enough to fly on most gimbals. There's no stabilization though, so keep that in mind. Can a lens really be perfect if it has no stabilization, Nick? Take it from the homie Jeffrey Dahmer. Stability can be overrated. For photographers, I'm not quite as confident in recommending this lens. Not because it's not a perfect lens, but I think a 24-70 f2.8 is for sure a smarter lens to buy at first. And then when it comes time to buy your first prime lens, still for photographers, I would maybe try a 35 or 85mm, depending on what it is you actually shoot. Those two focal lengths are just more interesting visually than a 50mm, and those are the kinds of things your clients are gonna notice. Again, rent gear before you buy it. Don't make me tell you again. Also, please do comment below. Tell us what your favorite prime focal length is and what brands you like the most. Your perfect 50mm lens could be totally different than mine. With this channel, I'm obviously trying to find fresh ways to cover filmmaking and photography topics. In this genre, there's already so much of the same kind of thing on YouTube. Like, how many Peter McKinnons do you actually need? How many channels exist to primarily sell you camera gear? How many one-off After Effects tutorials are you gonna watch before you realize what you're making is actually boring? We're gonna get to the bottom of all those questions and more, so go on, girl, like and subscribe. And that's all I have for today. I'll see you next time.